Palworld, a game that has taken the world by storm both for its gameplay and its comparison to other popular games such as Pokemon and Ark Survival. However, the game that it has been compared to the most is Pokemon. This is in part due to the main pull of the game being capturing pals and using them for battle and other aspects of the game. But are they really that similar? Has Palworld done Pokemon better than, well, Pokemon? Is Palworld what Legends Arceus should have been? Is Palworld really going to be the game that kills Pokemon? I played a decent amount of Palworld, so I have some knowledge of the game, so let's talk about it. Let's get the obvious out of the way and talk about Legends Arceus. If you don't know anything about Legends Arceus, let me give you the TLDR. Legends Arceus was Nintendo's version of a survival Pokemon game. It was set in the distant past of the Sinnoh region, and Pokemon battles took more of a backseat. Pokemon were able to attack you directly, and the gym battles were replaced with Warden and Noble Pokemon battles. Noble Pokemon were special Pokemon that were seen as guardians of sorts, and instead of battling them how you would normally, you defeated them by throwing bombs at them to calm them down before throwing out your own Pokemon to battle them. There weren't any Pokemon centers or marts, and you could scavenge for items to craft things such as Pokeballs. Let you know a little about Legends Arceus, let me quickly explain why Legends Arceus shouldn't be compared to Palworld. Yes, they're both survival games, but Nintendo took a very cautious approach to the game. They didn't want to go all in on a survival game when they weren't sure how the Pokemon community would react to it, while also wanting to keep the game accessible to the young audience. I think a lot of people forget that Pokemon wants to leave room for their younger players to feel as if the game is approachable for them. Imagine an 8-year-old you having to craft nearly every single Pokeball just to capture Pokemon instead of being able to go out and just buy them. I'm sure a lot of us wouldn't make it very far in the games and would put it down very quickly. The caution was well warranted, as Legends Arceus doesn't even fall into the top 10 of sales when it comes to mainstream Pokemon games, along with receiving tons of criticism for its gameplay and mechanics. Of course, you could say those criticisms come from Nintendo not delving deeper into the survival aspect, but there's no way of knowing that for sure. Personally, I enjoyed Legends Arceus, even having one of the most, if not the most, difficult final boss battle in Pokemon history. That second phase of Giratina was frightening. Though I wasn't the biggest fan of the lack of Pokemon battles and ways of attaining money, it was still a nice change of pace and fun to play, especially since you were able to get trade evolutions without trading. Game Freak, please get rid of the trade evolutions, they're terrible and annoying and should really learn from Legends Arceus. But I digress. Now, there is another major reason why a survival game, or at least a mainstream Pokemon survival game, most likely isn't in the cards for Nintendo, and that's competitive Pokemon. In case you live under a rock and didn't know, Pokemon has an absolutely massive competitive scene. Like really massive. Like worldwide massive. Pokemon has international and regional events all across the world that climaxes with the Pokemon World National Championship. There's a division for kids and teenagers even, both of which have world championships for themselves, and of course one for older players. If any of you have ever tried dipping your toes in a competitive Pokemon and tried building a team, you know how difficult and time consuming it is. Now imagine having to go through that process in a survival game. Yeah, I don't want to either. For those of you that may not know, creating a competitive team is far more difficult and time consuming than you probably expect. Well, it's not that it's difficult, just that it takes a lot of time, and I mean a lot of time. There's a YouTuber by the name of Blissey who goes over competitive teams that have won world national championships and tries to rebuild them himself, showing how much time it takes for him to do it, even when he does it the most efficient and fastest ways possible. Not only do you have to catch the members of your team, but you also have to EV train them, get the correct IVs, moves, and items. Getting EVs wouldn't be the worst, since you can get those from defeating Pokemon, but not being able to easily access vitamins, items that give you a decent amount of EVs without battling Pokemon, would make the grind take that much longer. Pokemon introduced creating teams in Scarlet and Violet, and it also isn't the worst thing since most of the moves that you may want your Pokemon to use are probably learned by level up, but it can still be kind of annoying to have to do, especially if you're trying to create multiple sets of a Pokemon. The real issue would be items. Behind EVs, items are the most important part of Pokemon battling. There are tons of items that you can get in Pokemon, and a ton of them are viable. The choice items, Life Orb, Loaded Dice, Amulet Coin is sold best, and these are just some of the items that have become staples in competitive Pokemon. In a survival game, you would have to craft or find these items, creating yet another obstacle competitive players would have to hurdle. Imagine there's a huge event around the corner, but you aren't able to complete your team because you aren't able to craft or find the last item or two that you need. It would be such a terrible feeling to possibly lose or not be able to attend an event for a reason like that. Of course, there could be ways of overcoming this obstacle, but they would probably require either the players to be given the item for an event or a vendor that just sells the item after you complete a certain amount of the story or reach a certain level. There's also the issue of Pokemon Home, which is a secondary app that allows players to trade Pokemon across games. It's a necessary app that has to be connected to the main game, as it allows players to transfer over Pokemon that may be available to use for the current competitive format, but not available in the main game. There are other things that Pokemon and Palworld get compared for, like the graphics or the glitches or the difference in open world experience, but those are smaller things. People kind of talk about Pokemon glitches as if Palworld doesn't have any, but honestly, I haven't encountered any of the glitches that people have complained about in Pokemon. Sure, I've seen clips, but I have no personal experience. Yet I have encountered numerous bugs and glitches in Palworld, like falling through the world, Pal's not taking commands, or trying to battle a dungeon boss, but instead of attacking the boss, Pal just fires into the fucking tree and doesn't do anything. Anyways, the point that I want to get across is that though they are similar, the games are also widely different. Palworld's survival aspect and use of pals to complete tasks is cool and interesting, and their more mature outlook in terms of battling pals and punishing them for not working is unique. In the same vein, Pokemon's battling aspect is unique as well, and is one of the greatest competitive games of all time. The strategy and mental games that go into competitive game are unmatched, from pivoting correctly to predicting what moves your opponent will go for, to even leaning into more luck-based aspects of the game, such as trying to go for double protects or side effects of moves, or trying to land critical hits. Also, the introduction of gimmicks, i.e. Mega Evolution, and the newly introduced Terrestrialization, always end up shaking the meta and adding more ways to play the game and more Pokemon that are viable. Could there be a more hardcore survival Pokemon game made by Nintendo down the line? Maybe, but it wouldn't be able to be a mainstream game and would probably have to be in production for a while, as it took a backseat to the main games that Pokemon produced. As for Palworld, whether it's just a trend for the year or something that lasts longer is yet to be determined, but one thing I can say is that the game is fun and at least worth a try if you haven't given it a shot already. But that's all I have to say about the subject. I didn't make this video to shit on Palworld or come to Pokemon's defense to defend everything it does. Pokemon does things wrong, but Palworld has done some things wrong in its own sense. I just wanted people to understand that they're different games with different wants and needs and desires for what they want to be as video games. But that's all I got. Thanks for listening. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time. Peace.